All right, boys. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Patricio Pitbull, who this past weekend defeated Adam Borics by unanimous decision across 5 rounds, Bellator 286. It was pretty one-sided. Mark, what is your take of Pitbull getting it done once again?
Yeah, this guy just doesn't stop winning, huh? It's amazing. He just keeps going. I was a little disappointed in this fight. To me, this was Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman without the knockout that saved it for Leon at the end. Adam Borics came into this fight and forgot who he was. And I get it. I'm not a fighter. I can't even imagine what it feels like to have to try to walk forward against a counter-striker on the level of Patricio Pitbull. It's probably terrifying. It probably feels like if you take one false step, you're going to be dead. But Adam Borics is a fighter. And I said this same exact thing about Leon. But you can't make it all the way to the big dance, all the way to the big title fight, and then change how you fight. You can't throw 2 shots at a time against Patricio Pitbull. You absolutely cannot. He will pick you apart, and he will do it with sting behind it all night long. His reaction time and his control of range for someone who has the limited reach and height that he has is way, way, way too good. He is a special counter-striker who, honestly, we probably don't give enough credit to. All I could think of the whole time I was watching that fight is that this guy is one of the best counter-strikers of this whole era and probably doesn't get as much credit as he should for it. But that is exactly the reason why Adam Borics had to fight like Adam Borics. If you're going to beat Pitbull, you need something to be the X factor. Like, if you're an incredible range striker and you think you can stay outside and land like a Wonder Boy style of fighter, do that. If you can wrestle and your grappling is elite too, try to mix it up like AJ McKee might. If you are Adam Borics and you're a pressure fighter who walks people down all fight long and who makes them think about all 8 limbs, to steal some Muay Thai terminology, and who doesn't let their opponent get set and doesn't let their opponent find a rhythm, then do that. Like, maybe Adam Borics thought he would be safer not trying to walk Pitbull down, and that because he was longer, he could win this, like, 1-2 battle of just throwing 2-strike combos at each other, but that was not the case, and it took him way too long to realize that was not the case. Practically 4 whole rounds. In round 5, he finally started looking like Adam Borics normally looks. He started walking Pitbull down, and he was actually finally having some success in round 5 before he tried another flying knee that got him taken down, and Pitbull took his back again. So I'm not trying to discredit Pitbull in any way at all. If anything, I left that fight more impressed by Pitbull than I was going into it. The guy just continues to add to his legacy. But I picked Adam Borics because I thought he was going to fight like Adam Borics, and I thought that pressure could make it interesting with Pitbull. And if you told me he was going to stand there for 95% of the fight, exchanging 1-2s, I would have told you he was going to lose every round. And that's pretty much what he did. So yeah. I was just disappointed in the way that played out from Borics. I'm sure he would do it differently if he had another shot, but credit to Pitbull either way because he's a stud.
Yeah, man. Omar, let's bring you in here. What was your take of the performance from Pitbull and from Borics?
So I thought it was a solid performance from both, but I did watch that fight thinking that I wanted Pitbull to do more. I think Pitbull had a lot of opportunities that he could have pushed the pace and he could have pushed the finish. And he just kind of decided not to. I think there was there were moments of coasting that I wasn't really expecting from Pitbull, obviously considering I had a first round KO as my pick. But there was a lot of dead time in that fight that I didn't expect there to be with 2 guys that are relatively explosive. One guy whose pace is very, very high and the other whose explosiveness generally wins him fights. But that didn't really seem to be the case. Pitbull definitely had a much more technical approach to this fight. Definitely a much more ground-heavy approach to this fight. I can't take anything away from Pitbull because it was a solid performance, but I guess I just expected something different, if that makes sense.
Totally. So, what do you guys think is next for these 2 featherweights in Bellator? Let's start with the loser this time. Let's start with Adam Borics. Mark, what do you think Bellator does with Borics next?
I wouldn't say there's a ton of options. To be honest, he's kind of beat a bunch of these guys already. He beat Matt Burnell. He beat Jeremy Kennedy. He beat Pico back in the day. Obviously, that could maybe happen again, but Pico's hurt right now, so it's not going to. There's a guy who debuted in Bellator. I actually forget how you properly pronounce his name, but I think it's Piotr Nidzielski. But he debuted recently and beat Pedro Carvalho one fight ago for Carvalho. So he kind of immediately came into the top of this Bellator featherweight mix. So he might be someone who makes sense for Borics to reset against, and obviously it'd be a big opportunity for Nidzielski.
Omar, any other thoughts about where the kid Borics might go next?
No. Mark generally has a better handle on these Bellator rankings than I do. I get to the point where everything just kind of seems recycled at this point.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
fair. There's not a ton of depth.
Right. What do you think is next for Pitbull at 145 pounds?
So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's honestly hard because he had said what he wanted to do. He was assuming Pico was going to beat Jeremy Kennedy on this night, which we will get to. He had said that his hope was that he would defend the featherweight title once more against Pico while the Bellator Grand Prix finished playing out. And that then he wanted, while the Bantamweight Grand Prix, I meant to say, finished playing out. And that then he wanted to go down to Bantamweight now to try to add a third Bellator title to his resume. Obviously, if you remember, he had gone up and won the lightweight belt at one point before dropping it. So he wanted to go down to Bantamweight. But now he can't fight Pico in the meantime because Pico didn't win and is hurt. He's not ready to fight anyone at Bantamweight because we still got 2 rounds left in that tournament. So the timeline doesn't match up. And there's not really any featherweight contender that makes any sense for him to fight. So I really don't know what you do. I guess you could try to do AJ McKee again and get AJ to come back and say, hey, we're going to do the trilogy now. But AJ kind of seems like he wants to be in that lightweight Grand Prix with the shot to win another $1 million. So, Omar, I don't know if you heard that. I guess you listened last week, but they're doing a lightweight Grand Prix as the next one. So I don't know. It honestly seems like there's not an answer for what Pitbull does right now.
That's tricky, man.
I think is the answer.
I mean, if I'm AJ McKee, I'm like, let me jump into this Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless, it's not like all of the Grand Prix happens right away. Like, so, maybe the first 2 fights of it are in February and the next 2 are like in March. So if there was a way where they were like, hey, Pitbull and AJ, we want to book you in December, and then AJ still thinks he could be in the Grand Prix starting in March or April or something, maybe it works out, but it seems kind of tight.
Okay. Let's move on to the co-main event of Bellator 286.
We were so close to Pitbull and Pico. So close.
Oh, my God. Anything can happen in MMA, man.
Yeah.
All right, at the Long Beach Arena, Bellator 286, the co-main event at a catchweight of 156.6. AJ McKee defeated Spike Carlyle by unanimous decision. The scorecards reading 29-26, 30-26, and 30-27. Omar, let's start with you this time. What did you make of this kind of lopsided performance by AJ McKee?
This seemed like one of those fights where AJ McKee felt like it looked like Spike Carlyle drug AJ McKee back into the streets. The first 60 seconds of this fight, AJ McKee looked like he was literally on some corner in front of some bodega throwing down with some dude in braids. Like it was pure absolute madness.
True.
It's exactly what it looked like.
Yes.
It was a wild fight. It was a wild fight. I didn't expect McKee to get drug into something like that or drawn into it. I thought he would stay more technical, but the man just going, rolling, throwing, winging crazy shots. And I think he kept doing it because he was finding success. Spike was getting hurt. He was bloodied up from those first 60 seconds. One would argue that McKee got the best of those exchanges in those wild haymaking exchanges. And in the end, I thought that McKee actually had done a really good job, not only putting damage on him, but also controlling him as well. The damage was significant, though. I mean, there were some sequences where Spike was turned around. He was running the other way and still getting tagged. He was bloodied up by the end of that fight, with good reason. It was a wild fight, man. A wild fight. A good one for AJ McKee, but a lot less technical than I thought would happen for something like that.
Mark, what were your impressions after AJ McKee kind of drubbed Spike Carlyle for 3 rounds?
Yeah, I had kind of the same take. This was a crazy fucking fight, and we knew Spike was going to have to try to make it into a hectic car crash type fight. Like, that was his avenue to try to at least win it. If it's a technical fight, he's got no shot. So we knew he was going to come out like that, but goddamn, that man came out at 100 miles per hour, and AJ had those, like, 30 seconds there where you could tell he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So he had to match that initially. He had to get up to it, and same as Omar, though, I figured once he weathered it, he would take a step back and reset and calm down and start working his game and his range striking and all that. But nope, he just continued at 100 miles per hour all fight long. They friggin' scrapped in there the whole time. He probably took some risks that he did not need to be taking, but even so, and even though Spike got the fight he was kind of hoping to create, AJ's talent was just too much, and that's what's shown through. He was clearly better than Spike every step of the way, everywhere the fight went, as you'd hope AJ McKee would be. And he beat Spike's ass. I mean, we knew Spike was tough. I think we all picked a decision, I believe. So we knew it wasn't easy to get him out of there, but my God, that man had about a dozen different opportunities to quit in that fight, and he absolutely would not. So props to him, and of course, props to AJ on a very nice lightweight debut.
Yeah, man. He gets a nice win over a tough guy at 155 pounds in Bellator. Most likely McKee is going to stay at 155, I think, and maybe hop into this lightweight Grand Prix for his chance to earn $1 million. Let's talk real quick about Spike Carlyle. Mark, at 155 pounds, put on your Scott Coker hat. And what would you do with Spike at this point?
So we mentioned this quickly last week. I think it's one that actually makes a lot of sense. I don't expect Spike or Peter Queally to be ending up in this lightweight Grand Prix. There's an outside shot, I guess, for either of them. But if I'm booking it, they're not in it. And I think that would make for actually a really exciting, action-packed matchup outside of that Grand Prix picture.
I'd love
so
it.
that's where I go.
That'd be great. Any other thoughts, Omar?
No, that's actually a fantastic fight. I didn't even think about that. That was a great fight.
Man. All right. In the featherweight division, Bellator 286, Jeremy Kennedy defeated Aaron Pico by TKO via shoulder injury. If you haven't seen it, Aaron Pico pops his shoulder out, basically throwing a punch.
Yep.
Finishes out the round, and then his corner frantically trying to get his shoulder back into place, yanking on his arm. Kind of gruesome to watch a little bit, if you're asking me. I don't know if they got it back in or if they failed to do so.
They did not get it back in.
Doctors waved it off, like you're not fighting.
They did not get it back
God, man, what a terrible way to for that fight to go. Mark, what was your assessment of the action?
Yeah, we touched on it already here a couple minutes ago, but what a friggin' buzzkill this was. You know, right when it finally seems like Aaron Pico is ready to break through to the elite, he hits another bump in the road. It just seems like it is never a smooth road for this kid. Probably was going to get Pitbull with a win here, you would think. And has this happened? So it sucked. I mean, that thing came out, what was it, in the first minute of the fight?
Yeah.
First 30 seconds? I don't even remember, yeah.
Might have been the first or second hook he threw.
Yeah, and he gutted it out for the whole round. He's trying to pop it back in himself while he's fighting. He can't do it. He's trying to keep Jeremy Kennedy off him with only one arm, so Kennedy's kind of just like controlling him, but still wasn't able to do anything, even though Pico only had one arm working. And then, he freaking runs to the corner with his arm hanging down. Like, he can't even hold the weight of his arm. And you're like, oh, shit. Like, you knew he was hurt, but then you see that, and it was like, oh, baby. Ooh. And I'm guessing maybe we've seen something similar to that before, like in an MMA corner. I feel like in all the years of MMA we watched, it must have happened. But, like, none are coming to my mind. And seeing Gibson just yanking and wrenching on that arm to try to pop the shoulder back in was wild. And I'm not surprised that the ref was like, hold on a fucking second. What's happening in that corner? We're going to check this out. So, for a second I thought they got it back in. Like, when he was yanking on it, then Pico takes his arm back and he's kind of rotating it. And I was like, wow, like, this is happening. He's going to go back out there. He's going to get this win. It's going to be amazing. And then next thing you know, the fight's waved off. So
Yeah.
super unfortunate. It sucks. Tough luck loss for Pico. Kennedy gets one of those wins that kind of just does nothing for you. No knock on him. I guess he fought well with what he had, but yeah, just a buzzkill for everybody basically.
How does that count as a win, man? It's got to be a no contest, in my opinion.
I struggle with this shit, man. I really struggle with it because there's such a fine line between like, did you cause it, or was it a freak thing? And like this one, it's easy to say like it was a freak thing. He was throwing a punch,
Right.
Yeah.
but like there's others that are like much more fine line, and I don't know how you actually start deciding.
Like shin breaks, like when Connor broke his shin or when Anderson broke his shin.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a win. That's a no contest. Come on.
Yeah. I would prefer to see guys' records historically. I almost wish we had a different thing. Like maybe not a no contest or a loss, like an injury loss or some shit like that.
Sure.
So that when you're looking at records historically, it's easier for you to be like, wait, that guy beat that guy? And you're like, oh, no, injury loss. Like, and then you remember what happened. You know what I mean? I would like it if there was some way to do that.
All right, Omar, what was your assessment of the of that first round of Pico?
I'm not going to. I don't think it's even fair to assess it. The man was literally one-handed for the entire fight. The hook that he threw was either the first or the second hook that he threw of the entire fight, and not only survived but was literally rolling on the ground, grappling with one arm. That's my assessment of the fight. Pico is an animal. The fact that he was even able to go an entire round without screaming bloody murder, because
Animal.
if you watch any other fights, Muay Thai fights, kickboxing, like whatever, people have dislocated their arms in the middle of a fight. They're literally making noise in the middle of those moments. Like
He didn't even make a face when Gibson was
Nothing.
yanking on it. His expression never changed.
Dude, think about if your arm is
Savage.
dislocated, it's not like that the pain is only when it got dislocated. Now that pain is period. That pain is there. It's radiating. It's fucking there. Pico went an extra 4 minutes rolling around on this arm, posting on this arm. Like, yeah, like it's.
I don't think he posted on it.
He definitely did. Go back and watch it.
I feel like he
definitely
had
did.
it like this for 4 straight minutes, and that he was just
No.
doing everything with the right arm.
There's one
feel
point
like I
where he was
remember it.
against. There was one point where he was against the cage, and he posted with his left arm because he had nothing else while he was
I
trying to
feel
get.
like I gotta go watch because I
was
kept
getting-
watching, thinking, I hope he doesn't have to use that arm. I was watching for it.
You could see him
Yeah,
trying to get the right arm involved, but the angle where he was getting taken down wasn't really allowing for it. But he was.
Oh, maybe I missed it.
It was, dude. Either way, man, Pico's a beast. I don't really
even
think
think
it's
about
fair
that.
to analyze that performance from either direction, considering what happened. So, just need to see him get healed up and back in the cage.
I mean, I can speak from experience of I've dislocated both of my shoulders, and it is.
Oh,
I mean, it is one of the most painful things I've ever felt, ever.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's hard to describe. It's a shocking
get
amount
it-
of pain.
how'd you get it back in? Did you go to the hospital or somebody popped it for you?
So my shoulders both, I think the term is subluxed, where it goes out and back in immediately on its own.
Oh,
It was pretty fucking painful.
oh,
I've done that to both shoulders a few times.
How'd you do it?
Football, basketball, high school.
Wow.
It popped out again. I was playing intramurals in college. I mean, it's like the same stuff. Like I'm going up for a layup and somebody hits you on the arm, and like as you're going up, it just like comes out. Oh my god! So that I cringe so much when I think about Pico, man, because that shit was just out.
Yeah. Animal.
yeah, he
Yeah,
really
man.
is an animal.
Oh, and you're right. I the times that I've had my shoulders pop out, screaming. I'm on the floor.
And this dude's fighting.
The other crazy part was that in one moment, he's going to the ref. No, I can fight. Let me fight. Let me do it. I'm okay. Let me do it. The ref calls it. The camera pans away. It pans back 5 seconds later, and you hear Pico going to Gibson. Dude, get me to the hospital right now.
Oh
Like,
my god!
He knew it was that serious, and still he was like, I'm cool. Let me fight.
So he did an Instagram video afterwards, like an update and stuff like that. And he goes, in retrospect, it was probably the best decision to not let me continue to fight. It's like, no shit, guy. You had one arm. Like, no shit.
What's also interesting, just one last thing on this, is if a guy breaks something, the fight gets called immediately. But why is that not the case for a dislocation?
I don't know. I guess because
honestly,
a break can get significantly worse and a dislocation can't.
I guess so.
I think it has more to do with who people, like, whether they know or not, number one. And you also have to imagine a promotion like the UFC is not trying to have, like, anything like that happen where something even worse happens after that. Some of these smaller promotions might be like, oh, your arm's back in? Oh, then get to work. It just might not, it might not be like that for somebody a little bit more reputable and, you know, who needs those kind of good reputations among them.
Okay, one more for Bellator 286 at a catch weight of 141 pounds. Juan Archuleta defeated Enrique Barzola by unanimous decision, 30-27s across the board. Omar, take this one. What was your assessment of Archuleta? Looking good over Barzola.
He looked good. I think my real issue is Barzola also looked good.
Yes.
This was a good fight, man. They both scrapped. I'm curious how you had it, Mark, because these rounds were tight, man. These were not, like, blown away rounds. These were not, you know, Archuleta running away with the fight. 30-27, I don't even think remotely begins to explain how that fight actually went. I had it 29-28. I would definitely argue, you know, the second round I think is the round that you can argue. But 30-27 to me is just that's just heartbreaking, especially from all three judges. That sucks.
Mark?
So it's kind of the story of what I said in my prediction, that as good as Enrique Barzola is and as tough and out as he is, he's not really a round winner. So I couldn't pick him because I didn't think he was going to finish Archuleta. And it was kind of the same story here. Like, he keeps it close as shit, but he's not necessarily winning these rounds. And that's what happened. I haven't rewatched the fight live. I don't remember which round I was torn on. So maybe you said it was 2, maybe it was 2. Mm-hmm. But I remember when it ended thinking that was either 3-0 or 2-1. But either way, I thought Archuleta had won it. So it must have been 1-3 that I thought he had clearly won. Now you have me curious.
Yeah, I'm going to this thing now. So the internet has, it's like almost 58% have Barzola beating Archuleta. 29.
No way.
Yeah. 41% have Archuleta defeating Barzola. 2-3 for Barzola.
Wow. So no, I guess it was 3 that I gave Barzola then, according to what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, 3 I thought was the most clear one for Barzola.
So I must have gave 1 and 2 to. Oh right, yeah. So I didn't have it 3-0. Sorry, now I'm remembering this fight. That's my fault. Yeah, I had it 2-1 because Barzola did win the third round. Yes, I remember it now.
Not according to the actual judges.
That's my bad for misspeaking. Yeah, so I had a 29-28 Archuleta. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. Yeah, but wow, that's interesting about the internet giving round 2 to Barzola as well. I don't know. I thought Archuleta won the first 2 rounds. My bad on not remembering this clearly for a second there. But yeah, I thought the story was more or less what we thought it was going to be. It's that Barzola hung tough, that he's so good everywhere, but that the power and the athleticism of Juan Archuleta was the differentiating factor. I thought he looked really good. He looked really fast. Showed off both his striking and his wrestling, and I thought kind of reminded people why he is held in the regard that he is. I thought it was a clear win. That's my fault for not remembering this fight as I started speaking, but now I do.
Let's just say a few words on where these gentlemen can go from here at Bellator. Mark, give us a name for the winner here, Juan Archuleta.
So, a lot of the top of this division, I mean, I say a lot, 4 guys are kind of stuck in this Grand Prix still. Obviously, Rafael Stotts is fighting Danny Sabatello, and Magomed Magomedov is fighting Patchy Mix. And then you have Sergio Pettis, obviously still hurt, kind of on the sidelines. Eventually, you would think, going to fight whoever wins this Grand Prix. So, Archuleta is like on that level, and all these guys are kind of booked. So, if it's me, if either Sabatello or Magomedov lose their fight, I'd probably book him with one of them. If it's Mix or Stotts that lose, he just fought both of them very recently, so then it gets a little trickier. But assuming one of Sabatello or Magomedov lose their fight, that's where I would go with Archuleta.
Nice. Omar, any other suggestions?
No, like I said, Bellator gets a little recycly in their
Yeah.
things here, so that's probably as good as it's going to get.